Hello everyone and welcome back to the EL111 coursebook. In this video, we're going to be going over the first part of Unit 6. We're going to be talking about risks and opportunities. Okay, so we have a few questions before we start that I'd like us to go over and discuss a little bit. What does the word risk mean? For each one of these questions, I'd like you to pause the video and talk to yourself or perhaps a classmate if you have one. You guys can talk and discuss things for a little bit before we keep going. So a risk is, in my definition, an action that you take when you're not exactly sure of the outcome. The outcome could be negative, or the outcome could be positive. The word risk comes from, it's very similar to gambling. Some people say something like calculated risk, but then it wouldn't be risk. I hope that makes sense. The thing about risk, especially high risk, is that there's a bit of a gamble when you do it. You know that if things go bad, they can go very bad very quickly, but you decide to take that chance anyway because perhaps the positive outcome is just too good. So these are things that you weigh in. That's basically risk. So what does it mean to be a risk taker? Simply put, a risk taker is someone that is willing to take risks. Now, there's lots of kinds of people in the world when it comes to risk taking. The most notable are those that take no risks because they get scared of the outcome being negative. And you have those that love the thrill, even if things go south. They love the hope that perhaps if it goes big, it'll be positive. And it does work sometimes, depending on how you look at it and depending on the risk or the opportunity itself. So that's a risk taker. Is risk taking a good or bad thing? This will be highly individual. I personally believe it's a good thing in certain circumstances. So not always, because if you're just taking risks left and right, especially high risks, the ratio of negative things to positive things will go way up for the negative side, which is not really ideal. However, if you're someone that perhaps goes through a mundane life and you got a job opportunity to work at a totally foreign country with a very different language, different cost of living, all of that, is the risk worth taking? That will be up to you. I personally think yes, because could it be something negative? It gets you out of your comfort zone, of course. But then again, if it works out, you get tons of experience, you meet new people, you grow as a person, and who knows, perhaps even citizenship later on. So the positives are really good. So it's an opportunity that you probably shouldn't pass up on, but at the end of the day, it's still a risk. Okay. Give some examples of risks you have taken and the impact they had on your life. I'd like you to pause the video and actually reflect on this before you hear my side. Again, these will be my examples. I would like you to think about your own. It's a good way to think about the risks you've taken in life so far. For me personally, I would say it's not the biggest risk, but I would say one of the big ones I took was the degree that I chose in university. For those that don't know, I'm actually a tech major. I majored in IT. But I teach English on the side. So that was definitely a big risk because going into university, I went straight after high school. And at that point, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So that was definitely a big risk, and actually sticking through with it and not changing midway, despite the difficulties of IT as a major and stuff like that, was, again, very big risks that I took, and I'm glad I did because the positives definitely outweigh the negatives now that I look back at it. So that was one example. I feel like that's enough for this part. If you feel like sharing your own risks, do let me know. I'd love to look at them down below. All right, let's get into the lesson 1A, we're going to be going over choices and consequences, very similar to what we were just talking about. Okay, so let's go over 1. Which of these penalties are usual in your country for driving over the speed limit? Very interesting. So I want you to take a look at these 4 points and answer them based on laws in your country. So the penalties for the speed limit for in Saudi Arabia, a speed limit means a fine. So you'll get a fine if a camera catches you. And you'll also get penalty points on your driving license depending on how fast you were going. And if you keep doing it, it can lead to the point where if you accumulate enough penalty points, you do end up losing, or not losing your driving license. I think it gets suspended for a year or something like that. I'm not too familiar with the losing your driving license part because I've never lost mine, thankfully. But it is certain that once you go over the speed limit and the camera catches you, you do have to pay a fine depending on how fast you were going. Is it yours? Is it the same in your country? Do let me know. Okay. Before we go to 2, let's take a look at the grammar here. We're going to be talking about something called the first conditional. What is the first conditional? The first conditional is used to talk about things which are possible in the present or even in the future. Things which may happen because of something. Let me give you an example. If I say, if it's sunny, we'll go to the park. What does this say? It tells us that maybe it will be sunny. That could be possible. And if it is sunny, then we'll go to the park. Okay? So let's read what is being said here. Like we said, we use the first conditional to talk about possible future situations and their consequences. So they could be used for both present and future, and the consequences based on that. We use the present simple in the if clause and will in the future clause. So when talking about the future, we'll use will, and present simple will be if. If he gets a speeding ticket, he'll have to pay a fine. Okay? That's why we use if with the present simple. If he gets a speeding ticket, he'll have to pay a fine. This is in the future, so he will have to pay a fine. His parents will be furious if he loses his new job. Will, because, again, future clause, okay? His parents will be furious if he loses his new job. This is the consequence. Basically, him losing his new job and his parents being furious, that is the consequence of him losing his new job. We can also use the word unless instead of the word or the phrase if not. So unless he can drive, he won't be able to get to work. So instead of saying if he can't drive, he won't be able to get to work, we say unless he can drive, he won't be able to get to work. Now, for consequences that are not certain, we use may or might and then the verb. So if something, say you do something, an action that has a consequence that is not certain, not for sure, we use the word may or might. So an example of that would be if the police decide to prosecute him for dangerous driving, he might lose his license. This consequence totally depends on if the police prosecute him, right? So again, one more time, if the consequences are not certain, then we'll use may or might. Okay? All right, awesome. Now let's go to exercise 2. And what I would like you to do here is I would like you to take a minute, pause the video, go through over this text quickly, about 30 seconds, just to get a general idea of what is being said. Pause the video and read the text. Okay, so assuming now you have a general idea what the text is about, I would like you to pause the video again, but this time go over the text and focus on the consequences of the person in the text and what happens when, what are the consequences of him speeding on his way back. Okay, and then we'll complete the table together. All right, so I'll assume you pause the video. Now you have a pretty good idea of what was being said here. So here we have two sections for our table: possible future situation and consequence. So what is the situation that could happen, and what is the consequence of said future situation? We have one: he gets a speeding ticket. He'll have to pay a fine dash penalty point on his license. Let's see where this is on the text, or in the text. He'll have to pay a fine. Here you go. As you can see, have to pay a fine, and we'll say he'll get penalty points on his, we could say he'll get penalty points on his license. Will, because future clause, you guys, okay? This is short for he will. B, the police dash him for dangerous driving. The police, here we go, prosecute. So the police prosecute him for dangerous driving. He may lose his driving license. C, what happens if he loses his license? Dash serious consequences for his job. There will be serious consequences for his job. So we'll say there will be serious consequences for his job. D, he can't drive. He won't be able to get to work. Dash lose his job. We could say he may or might lose his job, up to us, but since the text has might, we'll use might. He might lose his job. And then finally, E dash lose his new job. This will be, he loses right here, as you guys can see. Loses his new job. His parents, you guys remember, because it's a future clause, what will we use? Will be, exactly. His parents will be furious. Okay? So this was 2. Okay. Now let's take a look at 3, another exercise for our first conditional. Complete the sentences using the correct form of the verbs in brackets. Okay, so here we have some verbs in our brackets, and we want to complete the sentences for each one, but using the correct form. So based on what we just understood, now we'll apply it to these verbs. So if Yusuf, we have the word fail, his math exam, he have to retake. So we'll say if Yusuf fails his math exam, he, what do you guys remember? What do you guys think? Exactly. It's a future clause, so he will have to retake it. Okay? B, we have do and not get. What dash you dash if you dash into your first university? What do will be, what will you do if you not get will become didn't or did not get into your first choice university. Okay? C, I dash the work on time unless I dash late tonight. And then we have not finish and work. C will be I will not finish the work on time unless I, this will be the same, work late tonight. Okay, nothing to change here. D, if you dash to university, what dash you dash? And then we have not go and do. So D will be, not go will be did not go or didn't go. If you didn't go to university, what do, oh, what will you do? Again, because future clause. Okay? If Sasha dash a part-time job, how dash she dash to work? Accept and travel are the verbs. So this will be if Sasha accepts a part-time job, how, like the previous one, will she travel to work? Travel will be as is. Well, we added will beforehand. My brother dash another job unless his company dash him more. Then we have look for and pay. So my brother will look for another job unless his company pays him more. Okay? And finally, G, if you dash English well, you dash a job in a multinational company. We have speak and get as our verbs. So we'll say speak will be the same. So if you speak English well, you get will become can get a job in a multinational company. Okay? So this was 3. Let's go over them one more time. If Yusuf fails his math exam, he will have to retake it. What will you do if you didn't get into your first choice university? I will not finish the work on time unless I work late tonight. If you didn't go to university, what will you do? If Sasha accepts a part-time job, how will she travel to work? My brother will look for another job unless his company pays him more. If you speak English well, you can get a job in a multinational company. All right, that was exercise 3. Awesome. There's something that I'd like to look at. Here we have the focus, something called expression reacting, which is basically, think of when you're having a conversation with someone, whether you're in an online call, perhaps on a one-on-one, or with a group, or even face-to-face. But I'd really like to focus more on the one-on-one aspect here. When you're talking to someone, say about your day, if they just stay silent for a solid 15 minutes while you talk about your day, how does that come across to you? It comes across as if you're talking to a wall. You're talking to someone that is bored of you, not interested, not surprised, basically doesn't care about what you have to say. So the way to fix that, to remedy that, and to show that you do care or you are interested when someone is talking to you is to add words or short phrases during their speech. This way, it tells the speaker that you're actually listening and you are interested in what they have to say. For example, they tell you that they got stopped by a police officer on the way back. You could say something like, "You're joking. Really? How did that happen?" It's not much. You're not taking over, but you're also telling them that you're interested and you're actually hearing what they have to say because you are paying attention. Or something like perhaps when they say, "Hey, look, this is my new car," you could say something like, "Wow." Like, "Wow, it looks incredible." Or, "Wow, that's incredible." Or if they got a new job or a job opportunity or they just finished their degree. The conversations are endless, you guys. The thing is, show that you're interested. So these are some of the words that you can use. Really? Again, this is a question, so make sure that your intonation goes up towards the end. You don't want to say, "Really?" Because when you say "really," it comes across as kind of patronizing. So again, make sure your tone goes up so that you're genuinely either confused, happy, conflicted, excited, all of these things. So something like, "Really?" Or, "You're joking. Is she?" So if I say someone's pregnant, you could say, "Is she?" Something like that, okay? Or, "Wow." Also something like, "That's incredible." All of these words and phrases are ways to show interest or surprise when someone is talking to you, perhaps telling you a story or their day or whatever it is. And funny thing, this can also be used for multiple languages, not just English, by the way. So feel free to use it in whatever language you like. All right, so now that we've taken a look at the expression reacting, now let's go to 5, see what we have here. Alice has a place at university to study economics, but plans to take a gap year between school and university and get a job. Listen to 3 people's reactions to her plan. Okay, so in this audio, you're going to be listening to 3 different people, and they will talk about Alice and her journey to studying in university, whether she should do it or not, if she should take the gap year or go to university right away. That's just the basic idea of what the audio is going to be about. What I would like you to do in this audio is I would like you to listen for very specific details. That is, what is each person's relationship with Alice? What do you think? Is the first person perhaps a friend, a family member? What is it? And I would like you to take out a note and ask yourself, are they with Alice? Do they think it's a good idea for her to take a gap year or not? Write that down. And I would also like you to list any risks and benefits. I'll play this more than once, but for now, I would like you to focus most on the people's relationships with Alice. Who are they? And if they are against her plan, or do they believe that her plan is good? So, without any further ado, here we go.
1.
Have you heard Alice is taking a year off before she goes to university?
Is she? What's she going to do?
She wants to work for a year and save money to help pay for her university course.
Really? I'm not sure that's a good idea. I don't think she'll be happy when all of us are going off to university and having a great time, and she's left doing a boring job. I can't see it working. I think it's a bad idea. And what will happen if she doesn't find a job? She may end up wasting her time.
2.
Here at Alba College, we encourage students to take a gap year. It isn't the right path for every student, but some students really benefit. It's certainly a good way for young people to discover what really motivates them and what they want to do with their life. Going to university blindly straight after school can be a waste of money, so taking a year off can help students figure out what they really want to do. A student like Alice has very clear ideas about what she wants to do in her gap year, so I think it will work for her. It'll give her valuable real-life work experience, and she'll also learn practical skills she can apply later on in her economics course. Even if the job isn't that interesting, she'll learn a lot about herself and get another perspective on life. In our experience, students who do a gap year often get better results than students who come straight from school.
3.
We're a fairly traditional family, and like many parents, we expect our children to study hard, do well at school, go to the best universities, get a good degree, and a good job. A gap year isn't something we've ever considered for Alice.
So what do you think about Alice's plan to work for a year?
We're not keen. We worry that she'll get out of the routine and discipline of studying. And, in the end, she may not want to go to university. It's a real problem. In America, you need a degree for most jobs. And if Alice doesn't have one, I think a lot of jobs will be closed to her.
True. It's a competitive world out there.
And there's one other thing. If Alice delays going to university by a year, she'll always be a year behind. She'll start her studies a year late. She'll take a year longer to finish her course and a year longer to find a job. I'd prefer her to start university straight away, so she'll be earning a good salary sooner. It makes better sense.
Okay, so that was the audio. Now I'll play it one more time. I hope you're able to get what each person's relationship with Alice or to Alice was, and if they were for or against her plan. Now, listen one more time and make a table or make notes in your notebook of some of the risks and benefits that each speaker mentioned, because each speaker does have their own point of view. So I'd like you to take a look at some of the risks and benefits. So let's play that one more time. Here we go.
1.
Have you heard Alice is taking a year off before she goes to university?
Is she? What's she going to do?
She wants to work for a year and save money to help pay for her university course.
Really? I'm not sure that's a good idea. I don't think she'll be happy when all of us are going off to university and having a great time, and she's left doing a boring job. I can't see it working. I think it's a bad idea. And what will happen if she doesn't find a job? She may end up wasting her time.
2.
Here at Alba College, we encourage students to take a gap year. It isn't the right path for every student, but some students really benefit. It's certainly a good way for young people to discover what really motivates them and what they want to do with their life. Going to university blindly straight after school can be a waste of money, so taking a year off can help students figure out what they really want to do. A student like Alice has very clear ideas about what she wants to do in her gap year, so I think it will work for her. It'll give her valuable real-life work experience, and she'll also learn practical skills she can apply later on in her economics course. Even if the job isn't that interesting, she'll learn a lot about herself and get another perspective on life. In our experience, students who do a gap year often get better results than students who come straight from school.
3.
We're a fairly traditional family, and like many parents, we expect our children to study hard, do well at school, go to the best universities, get a good degree, and a good job. A gap year isn't something we've ever considered for Alice.
So what do you think about Alice's plan to work for a year?
We're not keen. We worry that she'll get out of the routine and discipline of studying. And, in the end, she may not want to go to university. It's a real problem. In America, you need a degree for most jobs. And if Alice doesn't have one, I think a lot of jobs will be closed to her.
True. It's a competitive world out there.
And there's one other thing. If Alice delays going to university by a year, she'll always be a year behind. She'll start her studies a year late. She'll take a year longer to finish her course and a year longer to find a job. I'd prefer her to start university straight away, so she'll be earning a good salary sooner. It makes better sense.
Okay, so now that you've listened to the audio twice, I think you have a fairly good idea of each person's relationship to Alice and also some of the risks and benefits that were mentioned by each speaker. So let's take this step by step. What was the first person's relationship with Alice? That is correct. It seems to be a friend. And are they for or against her plan? Yes, her friend was indeed against her plan. What about the second person's relationship to Alice? It's not quite clear, but it does seem to be somebody from Alice's university, or the one that she would be applying to. It seems like perhaps it's a professor or a dean, principal, CEO, someone that holds a high place at the university. And do they agree with Alice's plan or not? They do agree with her plan. They think that not everyone is suited for university right away. Some people need time, like a gap year, to figure things out, perhaps get a taste of what life is like, get some life experience under their belt, and then come back for university. And they did mention that people that do this actually tend to get better grades and perform better when they do come back to university. So definitely a compelling reason. And finally, the last person's relationship is her father, because if you guys focused on the details, he said that they were a fairly traditional family, and as many parents, they like it when their children are strict and disciplined and study hard so that they can go to a good college. You know, the traditional life script that people still do. So that definitely that's definitely a father talking. Okay, and was he for or against her plan? He was against her plan. This one's a no-brainer. He had some compelling reasons, but overall, he was against her plan. He wasn't keen on it, basically. Now, let's take a look at some of the risks and benefits. I hope you guys got something similar, but I've written some here in my notepad that we can go over together. So for some of the benefits is that mentioned by some of the people in the audio is that you're able to discover what motivates you as a young learner. And in Alice's case, it helps them learn more about themselves and gain experience, which can help later in university, like mentioned by the dean of the university. Now, on the other hand, there's quite a few risks that comes with taking a gap year in Alice's case, and that one of the most notable ones is that she might not actually be able to find a job, and a gap year turns into wasted time, and that's not good. The father also mentioned that she might get out of the routine or habit and discipline of studying hard. Assuming Alice used to study hard and had that routine and discipline from school, now he's worried that she'll probably get out of that. You know, when you go through life, you kind of just go through the motions, and you don't really have that routine of studying anymore. Which could, to follow up on that second point, may actually end up convincing Alice not to go to university after all, because I mean, once you start working and you start making money, even if it's not much money, and the thought of going back to studying and waking up and sitting in class and doing assignments, it can be quite daunting for some people. I'll admit that. So it might change her mind, which is a risk, because a degree is, in this day and age, still better than no degree. And finally, one more risk mentioned by the parent is that Alice will be a year behind when she decides to go back to university. I don't think this one is such a big deal, but it is a risk nonetheless. She'll be a year behind everyone else, including her friends, and she'll finish a year later. She'll get a job a year later. She'll graduate a year later. All of these things will be later due to her taking that gap year. There's also one that I didn't mention here, and that is seeing all her friends go through university while she has to work. This is one that her friend mentioned because her friend was against it as well. So she feels bad that Alice will have to see all her friends go through university together and have a good time while she has to sit there and perhaps work a 9 to 5 or even more to make ends meet and support herself during her gap year. So these were some of the benefits and risks mentioned. I hope yours were at least similar to this, because we did listen to it multiple times. And on that note, I think this concludes the first part of Unit 6, Unit 6A. I hope you guys had a good time, learned something new. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.